Welcome everybody to Live on Mars, the MarsBased podcast. We're extremely honored to have one friend of the company, one friend of the family for one of our very first episodes, Mr. Howard Loft, serial entrepreneur. He's in Florida, but he has been an entrepreneur for over 30 years, founded or co-founded 15 companies, if not more, made more than 50 investments, always in technology. He's written a book, he's an angel investor, but we're going to be focusing today on his entrepreneurial profile, right? He's the founder and CEO of LoveToKnow, a media company from the US. He has got also a development center here in Barcelona where we're based. So, well, good morning to you, Howard. How are you doing? Welcome to Live on Mars.
Hello, Alex. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
I wanted to start breaking the ice a little bit by talking about how you have adapted to working from home. Seems to me that your company, because it's highly technological, you have had these processes and tools in place, but how has this situation affected you and how are you adapting to working from home?
Yeah, I mean, we LoveToKnow actually started over a dozen years ago as a virtual company. We were super early on it, and here in the U.S., everyone has been virtual always. So we've been doing the work from home thing for a very long time, and it's a different. I just thought it would be really cool to have a company like that, and of course, it allows you to take advantage of talent wherever it is, as opposed to just locally, and that's been a huge advantage for us. And we realized early on that it works, but you just need to make sure you have the right tools and the right processes and procedures, and so of course the wonderful thing is the tools have been getting better and better for the last dozen years. It started off with basically, chat and email and phone calls. At the very beginning, we didn't really do video calls. And then we, as I say, the technology has just kind of kept getting, I remember originally we were on, Yahoo Instant Messenger, I think AOL originally, and then Yahoo Instant Messenger. And then, as I say, the technology keeps getting better. So now we're on Slack and Zoom, and we went to video a few years ago, which has actually made a real difference. And emails, and I still do phone calls, and WhatsApp. You and I talk on WhatsApp, occasionally, and so all the tools are there now, and it really has shrunk the world and made virtual communications and working virtually, pretty easy. I was so encouraged by the results we got early on at LoveToKnow that with Sarah Fell and my partner David Heeman, we started a company called Flex Jobs to offer remote work to everyone who might want it, because there's just so many people who they can't commute for whatever reason, or they don't want to commute, and they don't want to work in an office or can't. Maybe they have to take care of kids, maybe they just have other things to do, or maybe they just don't want to. And that company is absolutely taken off. It's run by Sarah Fell, who's Sarah Sutton Fell, who's the CEO, and she's done a remarkable job, both running Flex Jobs, but also evangelizing work from home. So I'm a big believer, and when all this recent stuff hit, we were pretty well prepared for it. Barcelona was actually the office where we had a lot of people, almost 30 people in Barcelona, and we did not do as much work from home, remote work there, but everyone went to remote work, in a matter of days, and it's worked out fantastically. I mean, from a productivity perspective, I think, we haven't missed a beat. I mean, really, everyone's just been doing a phenomenal job. I know there's specific challenges like right now, because a lot of people have the kids in home, and there's other things to be concerned about, and we understand that, and of course work around that. But it's really going well, and I think the world has changed, and I don't think it's going to go back. I mean, we're all going to go back to offices at some point, but well, not all of us, but offices aren't going to go away. But I think it's interesting because like with flex jobs, we've been evangelizing this for, a dozen years, and we figured we were sort of in the fourth inning, maybe fifth, probably fourth inning of this sort of trend. And then, we went from the fourth inning to the ninth inning in, a matter of 2 weeks. So
it's perhaps easier because you've got a highly technical team, right? Especially the ones you've got in Barcelona, who are mostly product people, developers, designers, UX. So maybe they are more acquainted with the ways of remote working. So maybe let's give a little bit of a description of what the company of LoveToKnow Media does for the people who are not acquainted with it.
Sure, we're a digital media publisher, and we have 3 primary properties and then 3 or 4 smaller properties. Our biggest properties are Your Dictionary property, which is one of the largest online dictionaries and has all sorts of sort of extra tools like sentence examples and reference sections in thesaurus and stuff like that. And we're doing a lot of really cool, innovative things there. And then we have our Word Finder product, which is a sort of a helper solver for word games, which is, word games are super popular. And then LoveToKnow.com, which is an information site for, for generally targeted at women 25 to sort of 40. And we've got about almost 100 different information sections there. So we're a digital publisher, and our model is generally ad-based. A couple others I mentioned, bibliography.com, which is we just really started going strong this year, and that's we're really excited about that product. That's taking off, and and we have some smaller properties like Golf Link, which has a lot of golf course information and is for golfing enthusiasts. And then I won't get into all the other smaller properties, but we've got a bunch of projects going on at any given time.
So how's the process of building this kind of company? Did you start some of these projects yourself, or did you acquire them? Because it seems to me there's a bunch of high traffic sites bundled together. So how did you start creating all this empire of traffic and content?
Mostly I think the word I'd use is opportunistically. So I started off just testing the concept with sort of an MVP with LoveToKnow, and just started writing content with a very small team of writers and editors. And I think the first information channel was like on engagement rings or something like that, because it tended to monetize well. And then we branched out into video games, and then we kind of found our niche with, as I say, women sort of 25 to 40. And so we just started adding sections like, weddings and teens and kids and parenting and pregnancy and stuff like that. And then yeah, as sort of opportunistically, for example, Your Dictionary became available for sale, what was available for sale. And and we decided to pursue it. We bought that and then spent a lot of time and effort fixing that up. And that's worked out really well. And then, over time acquired a number of other properties. Acquired an encyclopedia, and trails.com we owned for a while. We sold that recently last year. And Golf Link was an acquisition. So yeah, we make acquisitions and then we do stuff internally. Bibliography.com, that was sort of a cold start. We acquired the domain and then I've been building a product on that for the last couple of years. And so we just look for opportunities where we think we can bring our skills to bear. We're good at content. We're pretty good at product. We'll look at a market, we'll look at the competition, and we'll see, if we have something significant to add to it. And if there's, good opportunity. So we're very opportunistic. We don't have, a 5 or 10 year plan really. And when we talk about where we're going, it's rarely the specifics about properties per se. We talk a lot about our internal values and our skills and what we're good at and how we can, build more just build more skills, how we can hire the best possible people. And, we expect to be a growing digital media publisher. I love the business. And when we look at sort of long-term what we want to be when we grow up, it's, you could look at Condé Nast, you could look at Hearst Publications and other media companies that have a portfolio of, of titles. I think that's what we are on a small scale right now, and of course we have aspirations to continue to grow that and be very substantial. I mean, I say we're small. I mean, I was just looking the other day. We actually did over 1 billion ad impressions.
Wow.
We're kind of at that rate per month, and well over 100 million page users and stuff like that. So.
How many people work at LoveToKnow?
So we're about 75 right now. We actually have about 30 in Barcelona. We've had great success in the Barcelona office, and just love the people there, love the culture, love the. Is there anything that we don't like about Barcelona? No. We love Barcelona. I don't like
to love it very.
I don't like that I can't travel there right now.
Exactly.
So yeah, we're that's been sort of a really fun adventure, and we continue to look to grow that office and hire engineers, designers, product management folks, and QA. Also, we still have a number of open positions there, and it's our plan to continue to grow that office. In fact, just acquired some more office space there.
That's good news.
Not that anyone's using office space. I guess the timing there was
exactly. Maybe you should have waited so that it would become a little bit cheaper. But anyways, when you say
we've got about 30 plus people in the US, and then we've got a team in India.
Okay. Yeah. When asking people about how big is your company, and they say like, well, it's about something, about number, that means it's big enough, right? When you don't know the exact number.
It does change all the time.
It's a nice combination of products you have built yourself, like LoveToKnow, of products that you have acquired, like in the big portal itself, where sometimes you buy the domain and then you build something with it, right? So when we're talking about, let's talk a little bit, just a quick bit of financials here. What would be like the numbers, or what would be the price of portals that you would buy, like that you would be looking to acquire? What are a range or a ballpark for people to kind of like grasp the idea of how much does a media company pay for a portal?
Yeah, I mean, for a good business, I would say sort of our range for acquisition, it could be as small as $500,000 and maybe as large as, I don't know, $3, $4, $5 million, something like that. So much depends, of course, on, the prospects, the cash flow and everything else. But we do continue to be acquisitive and look for, great properties that are, well positioned. And, if we get excited about it, we'll pay what we think it's worth.
What are the key metrics that you're looking for in this kind of acquisitions? I take it like it's having a good domain, good SEO, positioning, traffic, cash flow. How do you value these companies?
It's certainly all those things. You're going to look at the growth rate. That's going to make kind of a big difference. You're going to look at its, what the prospects look like over the coming few years. And you're going to look at, is there anything that we inherently can add value to this? I mean, is it sort of already perfect? And we just, we could continue to run it, but we don't have like a lot of ideas. That I would say is not necessarily a great situation. So we tend tend to buy things that actually often, may need a little fixing up, and it's something where we can get some leverage. Something we can say, well, if we take that piece and move it here, we can, use our expert. We've got to have something to add to the party. Otherwise, I think it makes it tougher from a pricing perspective. But we like to look at stuff where we can buy it, we can add our own skills and kind of secret sauce and make it a lot better. And like anything else, you want to be really excited about it. We don't have to acquire anything. We've got a wonderful business. We can continue to grow it internally and so forth, but we like to acquire stuff if it fits.
And how do you so you talked about you monetize all these high traffic sites by using advertisement, right? Is the only way of monetizing? What do you have?
We've actually spent a lot of time in the subscription business, and we have subscription businesses. Our Golf Link is subscription business. Our Trails.com was subscription business. We have others. Bibliography is likely to contain a subscription component. We haven't layered that in yet, but probably will in the coming year. And so some combination, thereof. Our Word Finder app has a subscription component. So it's the vast majority is advertising, but we like the subscription business a lot. Our Flex Jobs business is a subscription business. Yeah, but it's advertising, and I like advertising. I mean, rates are down right now, in the sort of pandemic right now, so which is understandable. But I there's a lot to like about the advertising business. I mean, it's challenging. It does change quickly. The move towards programmatic has been generally really good, but it's gotten remarkably sophisticated. And, especially while we sort of have this little bit of downtime and rates are down, we're quite focused on, how we can provide the most value to advertisers so we can command the higher rates. I'm a reasonably intelligent guy, and I can just tell you that, the ad serving ecosystem and the ad serving technology is remarkably complex, and it's very interesting, but there's a lot of moving parts, and I'm kind of having a lot of fun kind of diving into it as myself and our senior team have been doing over the past really, really focused on it over the last few weeks. It's fascinating.
And how about do these sites also profit from being interconnected, or they act as independent sites within the company? I mean, when you take a new site into the company, do you kind of share traffic or databases? Do you do anything?
It's a really, really, really good question, because intuitively you could look at a number of our sites and say they're pretty close, and you should be able to share traffic or move people from one site to another. The reality is it's quite difficult. People, when they are on the web, and of course nowadays that's mostly on their smartphone and so forth, they're looking for very specific things.
Yeah.
And we are very good at providing the answers to what they're looking for, whether it's Love to Know or whether you're looking up a dictionary definition or looking for another word on our thesaurus or our Word Finder product. If you're looking for solutions and suggestions to games, they want something very specific. And so, if they're on Word Finder, even though it's actually the same domain, which is your dictionary, they're not looking for definitions. I mean, they are sometimes, and they will click through because it's word games, but you would think they're so close. But it's hard to move people around from one site to another, from one property to another. People on the web, and you can think about it in your own experience. When you are looking for a piece of information, you're just looking for that piece of information, and people don't seem to have the time to sort of, serendipitously, move around and look at other things. We do have within a particular category, if you're at Love to Know, just one of the sites like weddings, if you're looking at one article, we do have, suggestion engines, which will suggest related articles and things like that. And those can be effective, but they have to be really, really related. So like if you're looking for, beach wedding dress, for example, then, we'll suggest, other, wedding activities on a beach or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll click on that, but they're not going to click on even other parts of the same site, which might be, engagement rings. And you'd say, well, that's so related. But
Yeah,
they
it
already
feels
have their
strange.
engagement ring or whatever. They just don't do it.
Well, it's good to avoid being pushy, because there's these growing concern with the advertisement, especially targeted ads being so pushy nowadays. You don't want to get classified as one of these shady companies. But that brings me to my next point, is like, what are the technological, because we're not going to delve too much into technology, because I will be interviewing your CTO in a few weeks from now, but so we'll cover more technology with him. But some things that you have been tackling technology wise in the company from its inception to here, because it says it's about like 15 years, the company all now, there's been many technological cycles there, right? So we have seen like the change to mobile. What were the challenges, and what were the biggest disruptions, or let's say upgrades to the technology you've done to the company?
Yeah, great question. The company actually, if you can believe it or not, Love to Know started off as a wiki, because I thought wiki was just so cool, and the idea was, to get the users engaged in providing, answers and their own information that they might know. So yeah, that was not necessarily a great choice, but it was kind of fun, and it did work. That was our original quote technology, which is kind of cool. And then, but then obviously we moved away from that, and and started using. Well, you're going to get all the technology from Oriel in a few weeks, but
Correct.
So he can run you through the sort of technology cycles. But suffice it to say that we have gone through numerous cycles of using different, frameworks, different programming languages, stuff like that. And, as from software development, it's like, it never stops. It's not like you develop a product and it's like, hey, we're done. If the product's successful, you're never done.
Yeah.
And you always have to be working on, the maintenance, migrating to new technologies or new platforms.
I was more interested in like, in the biggest scope of things, right? So like adoption of mobile, or big, the eruption of Google and their SEO algorithm changes over the years, things like how do they affect your business?
Well, they do affect it actually quite a bit. The movement towards mobile, was on the one hand great, on the other hand tough. Mobile overall added traffic to the internet, so it's not like it was either or.
It was not a zero-sum game.
Yeah, it was absolutely not a zero-sum game, because you never could take your laptop to the grocery store and look up stuff while you were in line.
Yeah.
Or when you're sitting in the back of a car, and if someone else is driving, you didn't take your laptop and you weren't surfing the internet, typically. So mobile was a great thing, because it was really, the vast majority of it was additive, and it wasn't replacing the desktop necessarily. And however, mobile always struggled with monetization. It always had lower monetization rates. So that was, and actually still remains a challenge. Um, and the thing is about mobile too, is when there's a platform shift like that, um, uh, it required a whole different set of skills. So, 1 minute you're developing for desktop, and the next minute you've also got to take into account mobile, which is a very different animal, and required some new technologies, techniques, and so forth to work on. So it's like you couldn't really do it just with the same team. We had to add people to support that. And then, the iPad, well, you got to support that too. And as you have to support these multiple platforms and then there's the Apple, iOS and display, and then, all the other smartphones and so forth. So it did increase the scope of what you had to do from a technology perspective, and from a development and manpower perspective. I mean, our costs grew, but of course, the opportunity grew with it. So, yeah, it's and it'll all continue, and it does continue. And I would say the same thing is true with, the Google search algorithms. We try and, understand SEO and be intelligent about SEO, but we tend not to try, and we're not interested in over finessing it. We have, our SEO philosophy is really, really simple, which is, in the end, Google wants to serve its customers as best it can. And so it really is looking for the best results. And so you need to earn your place, and not earning it by being fancy with SEO, but you need to earn it by having great content. And what's happened with the Google algorithm over the past, few years is, Google has gotten very sophisticated at measuring engagement. They, essentially they've gotten very sophisticated at measuring the satisfaction of their users, which they should. And that's great. And, that is what we seek to do also. If users come to our site, we want them getting the information they want. We want them engaging with the site to the extent that it makes sense for that, for what they want. And we want them to leave happy. And leaving happy means they don't go back to Google and search for exactly the same thing. They don't
go to a competitor.
Right. They don't hit the back button and go look at, all the other options, because we have satisfied, everything they're looking for. So that's, what we want to do is very aligned with Google. And that is at the core of our quote SEO strategy, which isn't really an SEO strategy. It's a customer centric strategy.
That's good. That's good. And what have you got? Like what will the future bring to a media company like LoveToKnow? I would suppose it would be more like, I don't know. If you ask me, I would think about integrations with this virtual assistants like Siri or Alexa or something like that. So people don't have to Google and enter your page, but they can access it via voice or something like that. That would be my idea. But what are your ideas, and where's the company headed to?
Yeah, we have built out a number of Alexa skills. They're doing okay. Yeah, it's been a fun project. We're always looking at what we might need to do next. We tend not to go super early on these things, because you can waste a lot of cycles. I think going off on a path because it looks like the world's going that way, and maybe the world doesn't go that way, or maybe the sponsor of that particular technology just changes or whatever. So, we take it fairly measured. But, and yeah, we tend to not try and get too far out in front. We do, for example, we're still focusing on apps, and I know that apps have been around a long time. We probably should have, gone all in on them earlier, but as you probably know from a lot of your customers and so forth, apps are hard. Apps are really hard. It's a very competitive market.
It is.
It changes pretty quick. And it's a different animal than our normal publishing. So I'd say we've spent the last 2 years, really getting our feet wet in apps, and we feel like we're starting to get significant traction on one in particular, our Word Finder app, and it's showing actually really good promise. And so we'll continue to do that. But look, there's nothing new about apps. It's been around a long time. We don't think it's by no means over. And the advantage of being just a little bit late to some of the technology and platform shifts are, you can kind of watch all the mistakes everyone else is doing. And there's also, there's more available information on how to succeed and how not to succeed. And there's more available people that know how to succeed and not how to succeed. So, yeah, right.
And how about, let's talk about the team a little bit, because we went over it briefly in an earlier part of the conversation, but I wanted to know, what's the distribution like in the profiles that you've got in the companies, to say like UX, technology, finance, how do they distribute in the team?
Yeah. So I would say, like from an editorial perspective, that's, are you asking like geographically, or?
No, just in the company in general.
Like the roles and so forth?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have, one of the things we've been doing over the last 2 or 3 years is building out our sort of senior roles. So in the good book, my favorite book, Alex.
It's your book, right? Yeah. I knew. Is it your favorite book? Because book? You haven't read mine.
I need to read yours.
Yeah, but you need to learn Spanish first. We'll get to that. Don't
That's
worry.
why I haven't read it. Yeah. One fine day.
One fine day.
You need an English version.
Correct.
But the chapter in the book that is, the most relevant to us right now, and it has been for the last couple of years, is the chapter on scale. And I'm going through this with a number of my other startup investments right now. And just to get to the scale chapter, you've got to go through the long cold winter, the bottom of the J curve. So getting to scale is kind of a big deal. Once you're there, you sort of intuitively think like, oh, great, we just make it bigger. It's not that easy at all.
You need to change profiles as well, right?
It's, people, process, and money. Fortunately, we've been blessed with, we like to run profitably. So we got the money, but the people in the process are the hardest part. And, you start getting, as opposed to what I say, cowboys who got you through the long cold winter in the early parts of the startup.
Yes.
And the first 4 stages of, you need generalists for that, because you're moving around so fast, and you don't have a lot of people, and people need to do lots of things. That from the startups you deal with, and
correct.
And from Mars, even, as a startup, like, when you're starting out, everybody's sort of doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah, especially the founders.
Yeah, exactly. And as you grow, you can't do that anymore, because it doesn't scale. And it also drives everyone crazy past a point. And so you've got to have siloed functions.
Correct.
And then you need people to lead those siloed functions, and they're not roamers, they're not cowboys. They just do their siloed function, and they do it really, really well. They do it way better than you and I could have done just, as a roamer, right? As a cowboy. And so
how it is right now?
What's that?
How it is right now, like the distribution of roles in the company, now that you have got more, these 15 years accumulated, then specialized profiles.
Right. So, one of the things we've done is to, for example, uh, our editorial used to be sort of spread out all over. Well, we made that, our editorial basically its own, you could call it department, its own group, led by Debbie Vasson, who does an amazing job.
Hmm.
And then, and like they really just focus on editorial and doing a phenomenal job. And then I brought on, David Wiegand is the COO. He had been with IAC and dictionary.com and so forth. And, he's been, phenomenal, working out, a lot of and helping me with a lot of the operation stuff. We created a chief software architect role, which is different than a CTO role. So we split those. And, Oriel, is
All right.
running as CTO. We recently, sort of everyone was doing HR. Now we have an HR department, and we, have brought on Barbie Brewer, who was 7 years at Netflix, and
I heard about that. Yeah.
As a VP of HR there, and she's added tremendous depth and capabilities to our HR in terms of both hiring, but also and maybe more importantly, definitely more importantly, improving our internal HR systems and our performance management, and just getting the most out of the people we have in terms of we're communicating better, we're getting more quicker feedback, more direct feedback. We're we have more systems to support people, and we've added a health plan, and in the US and all these other things. And that, so again, that HR is a great example. Like, we didn't need it before because we weren't really that big and everything else, but now we're of a size where you got to say, hey, we need an HR function here, because
maybe it's not a big group. It's not a big group compared to the editorial or content team, the tech team, or product team, right?
Yes, but it's super, super important, and over time it'll probably grow. And then from a product perspective, for a product team, we have a product manager, and then we will have typically a couple front ends, a back end, a QA, and a design. And then those are rough numbers. It could be as many as 5 or 6 front ends and 2 or 3 back ends. But those are the product teams, and then they are supported by, we have cross-functional roles like data analytics, editorial is a cross-functional role, SEO is a cross-functional role, sysadmin is a cross-functional role, and so forth. So you've got these sort of silos like this, but then you have layered in these cross-functional roles that are super important, and they support the product teams. It doesn't, one fine day, a particular product team may be big enough that it has its own data analyst, but until then, we, we have, a data and analytics supporting, the various product groups.
It's sort of having like a services part of the company within the company, right? I was assuming that every product had their own team, but it seems like only the really core people are specifically dedicated to that project. And then you've got this cross-function. Okay, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, because, just to take something like sysadmin, we've got, phenomenal sysadmin, but every team doesn't need its own sysadmin person.
Yeah, right? Not full-time anyways.
No. And so we're constantly looking at that, does the team need a data analyst or so forth? But, right now the cross-functional roles are working really well for us. It is tricky. Because they're serving a lot of masters, and there's a lot of information and sort of the development of their as the teams develop, they and are creating more tickets and features and stuff like that. They need we need to keep the communication going so they understand what's going on that might affect their particular function. But so communication is pretty key there, but we're, it generally it's going quite well.
And how about the product people? How do you find product people? What skill set is required to work at Love to Know if you're a product person?
You know, I'll say it's a great question.
I only ask great questions, Howard. You know me.
You're good at this, I tell you. You are. You're good at this. But product is really the hardest. And by the way, it's a tough role. Here's the thing. You and I both know what a front end engineer is. We know what it looks like. We know,
Yeah.
and it's very defined, and it's like, you know it or you don't, and you have the interests or you don't, and you have the skills or you don't, you have the experience or you don't, and blah, blah, blah. Product is a different, and the same is true with backend. The same is true with QA and design generally also, right? So those are, now those people are just as special, but they're just easy. It's easier to define those roles. Product, and it's tough.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, it's tough.
Project management plus UX plus, some kind of technical understanding, but maybe not a developer, but.
I think you can have really, really smart and capable people that maybe, still might struggle with product. And some people just, it's like, you've got to, if you're going to be good at product, you kind of got to get product, which is, I believe you need to have a deep understanding of, your audience and what they want and what they might want. And so that's number one. Like you've got to give a damn, right? You've got to love the product. You've got to love the space at least enough to really, really be thinking deeply about it. And that means, yes, studying the competitors, studying the market, but it means having, and a lot of product managers struggle with this, it means having a lot of conversations. Like you got to get the data, you can teach yourself a certain amount of it, pick up the phone, schedule interviews, watch, look at what happens with user behavior and metrics and stuff like that. Where are they tripping up in the product? What do they like about the product? What don't they like? And it's this constant, what it's like there's this balance. A product manager should have a certain amount of vision. Absolutely. They should have an idea of where the product should go. But you've also got to be humble. You've got to realize, I don't care how smart you are. I don't even care if you're, Alex Rodriguez. You've got to be humble. You've got to embrace the fact that you don't know. You've got to go to the users. You've got to watch them. You got to listen to them. You got to talk to them. You've got to have an innate understanding of what they want. And you get that innate understanding through lots of conversations. So we really encourage our product managers to, again, watch the metrics. What buttons are they clicking on? What are they, how long is the time on site? How many pages per visit? All that, the key metrics, but also just have conversations, talk to them. It's so critical. I would say the other things you need as a product manager is you're a leader. I mean, you are a leader. And you've got to be able to, you've got to be able to get the, work really well with your team and motivate them and get quick, development cycles out so that you can try more things. I think where PMs get in trouble is when typically they let a particular sprint or feature just get too big before they even know if it works. So we really we really encourage the concept of MVP. Before we make large investments, we're all sitting around saying, how can we test it? How can we try it? How can we come out with something that is maybe only 80% finished in terms of final polish and everything, but it's going to give us all the data we want. And we're constantly having those conversations endlessly, which is not like, hey, great idea, let's go spend 3 months building it, right? That's how not to do it. And
Yeah.
how to do it is, great idea, might work, might not.
But here's the plan,
How
right?
can we spend 3 days, testing it, right? Not 3 months, 3 days. And if the test goes positive or looks positive, maybe another 3 days to be sure. And then if it looks good, then let's roll it out and polish the heck out of it. So that sort of, test, try, look at the data, iterate it, which is, by the way, a similar process to a startup. That's what a startup needs to do.
Correct.
Startups that go off and develop for 2 years because they're, in their, what do they say?
Stealth mode.
You're stealth mode. Every time you hear stealth mode, I'm like,
You're losing time.
interest.
Yeah.
Goodbye. Hang up the phone, run.
Yeah.
Run from it. Stealth mode is total caca, in my view. There may be exceptions. The minute I hear stealth mode, it just like,
it's a red flag, right? As an investor.
Oh, no. It's a checkered flag. Like, it's over. Goodbye.
Yeah.
It's not a red flag. I can't get around stealth mode. It's just not going to work.
And how about because you built a dev team in Barcelona, right? A technical office. And we're traditionally not very good at product. We haven't had this tradition, but we are highly skilled in development or design, for instance. So how do you find the cultural differences between the team in America and the one in Barcelona and the team in India? Because you've also got a technical team in India, right?
Yes.
How do you deal with that?
We don't do product in India. I'm not saying it can't be done. We just have struggled with that. What we do have is remarkable, and wonderful, development folks over there, and we love them. In Barcelona, one of the cool things about Barcelona is they do have that long history of design. Like
you can tell
Gaudi and I'm sure going back much further than that. And it's really cool. And you guys, phenomenal design schools and so forth. So, our design, we're thrilled with the design, our design team there. Product, as you point out, like, it just hasn't, it's not that Barcelona is not, going to be really good at it one fine day. There's just not enough experience,
exactly. We never called it like that, right? They were called project managers, but they didn't know they were doing product or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Now, but that, we're going to see more and more very successful, PMs, come out of Barcelona, but they're all learning. So one of the things we do is, for example, our CEO, David Wigan, who he really focuses much of his time on product and helping the product teams, is, we're trying to introduce, American product management, to and help our PMs understand the American market, help them understand, what product management, really, what the best practices are and how we do it at LoveToKnow, and, what's good, what's not. And, it's actually been going, really well. And so our product managers are doing a phenomenal job. And we give a lot of thought as to how we can bring along product managers, because yes, there certainly are, there is more experience in product management in the US and so forth, but that is all true. But we like to kind of grow product managers too. I mean, we have specific ways.
Do you create them? Do you hire a specific role and then you train them, or
train them? Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, people who have some, they'll typically have some product exposure. They know the basics, but then we can bring them along in how we like to do product at LoveToKnow, as opposed to them coming in, with a lot of preconceived notions on how they do product. Because, we do it our own way. I think we've got a pretty clear idea of what we want from product managers. But I think we feel reasonably confident that we can, we can bring people in to the company who have a great interest in product management, and we can teach them the basics. We can show them how to do it, what we want and everything else, what we found works and doesn't work. Again, love to know, this is just crazy to talk about, but we've been around for 15 years. I mean, we've done it wrong. We've done it right. We've had our share of successes. We've had our share of failures, but at this point, 15 years later, we've got a pretty clear idea of what we want. And, we want really smart people with great energy and great passion and interest for a product, some sense of design, the ability to communicate with the user base, and the ability to lead teams, have, a basic technical understanding. And, we'll hire those kinds of people all day long. And the truth of the matter is, we're probably going to start doing some hiring of exactly people like that for some of our smaller properties, and we'll sort of get them going on the smaller properties, and then those properties will grow and/or we'll have other opportunities for them.
Last two questions to wrap up this interview.
So if anyone's interested, come to us, baby. We're always hiring great. We are literally always hiring great engineers.
Great.
Friends back end. We are always looking for for talented product managers and design, all the functions. We're growing somehow.
I'm going to send you a great product person I know that wants to relocate to Barcelona. She lives in Canada right now, and she wants to relocate to Barcelona. So I'm going to send you her CV. Last two questions. As an investor, what are the trends you're seeing right now? Well, where are people operating right now? So what kind of companies have they disappeared, and what are the ones that are fundraising? Like, where do you see this is headed to? Because we as service providers and you as an investor, we see the future, right? They come to us to build a product, or they come to you to raise funds to build a product, right? So we kind of see the companies that will be built in the next 2-3 years, right? Where are the technology companies headed to? What sectors?
Yeah. What sectors is that the question, Alex?
Yeah. What sectors? So what kind of technologies? Is it like video streaming, for instance, e-health, or I don't know, something like that? What have you seen that since the outbreak of coronavirus, you're getting more deal flow from these kind of companies?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that the world has had quite enough time to sort of, spin up startups that are in direct response to the current situation.
Yeah, but maybe some spin-offs, or maybe some morphing, adopting your language, that the companies that they used to do something, they have morphed into something else, to pivoted to service remote teams, whereas before they were serving all kind of companies, but now they are extremely focused on remote teams, right?
Yeah, I mean, here's what I do see, as we were talking about earlier. So there's been this, so on a very, very such a high level, the world changes. Once upon a time, we made buggy whips and carriages, and then we made cars, and then we made Uber, actually. And that's a progression, and that goes on in every industry. And as you know, for those of us in technology, that goes on, even faster. And what has happened, because I spend a lot of time looking at the public markets too, is this sort of acceleration. There's been an acceleration of the trends towards the disruptors and towards the new companies, and towards technology companies and stuff like that. And you can look at that, in the market today. Oil, which is a very old line industry, is recently traded at a negative price per barrel. Hard to believe. And at the same time, Amazon is at an all-time high. And companies. So you look at companies like Slack, like Zoom, like Etsy, like Shopify. These companies are killing it in today's market.
Correct. Yeah.
And this happened. We see it in flex jobs too, right? We were on a trend. The trend was going our way. As I said, we were kind of in the fourth inning, we thought, and then all of a sudden it just like it accelerated that, right? So the have-nots have in the industries, that are we're not super well positioned for the future. They're struggling, and my heart goes out to them, and especially those in the travel industry. As you know, I love travel, and I love restaurants and hotels and airlines, and but they'll come back. But but those who were well positioned before this, are like now they're 2 or 3x as well positioned, and so there's this look at Shopify, like they're killing it. Why? Because just instantly everyone needs to go online. Look at Slack, they're killing it. Why? Because guys like you and I have been using Slack, but the rest of the world wasn't necessarily using it.
Or Zoom.
And now suddenly everyone needs Slack. You and I have been doing Zoom for a long time, but now suddenly everyone needs Zoom. And so there's just been this massive acceleration towards these companies and products that were well positioned prior. And I think, that's going to continue. And to what extent companies started today are going to, survive and thrive. Obviously there's going to be a lot. I think it's honestly, from what I've seen, it's a little early to see, how the startup community, reacts to this in terms of starting new companies. I think it'll happen. I'd say, ask me in 2 or 3 months and I'll have a sort of a much better idea about sort of brand new solutions that are going to, be well suited for today's world.
So mostly it's online collaboration and e-commerce. Okay, and the last question, like everybody is a bit of a Martian, right? We all do something in our companies that set us apart from the rest of the companies. What's something you do at LoveToKnow that is completely different to how other companies operate? Have you got something that makes you like a really, really special company?
Well, yes, I like to think so. And this is going to sound crazy, but what we do at LoveToKnow is, we get amazing people from, all over the United States, from, places like Barcelona and from all over the world. And we bring those people together in teams to focus on products that improve people's lives through better information. And, we have this uniqueness that, and I guess it's a little less unique now because everyone's working virtually, but we've been doing it for 12 years and longer. And we're very used to it. We love it. We figured out, the many, many nuances of really making people successful in that situation. And we're flexible. We want the absolute best people. We want to give them a lot of responsibility. And then we want to win. We're competitive, and we want to ensure that our products win, and that helps the individuals win. And as I remember, a wonderful coach told my son's baseball team when they were about this high, he said something very politically sort of incorrect. He's like, we want to win. This is not just about having a good time. Like, we want to win. And why do we want to win? Because when we win, everybody's happier.
All right. Yeah.
The kids have more fun when they win, and adults have more fun when they win too. And that's
as long as you don't piss off a lot of people in the way, kind of like Michael Jordan, now that we're seeing the documentaries, right?
Of course. Yeah.
There's got to be some sort of a balance. All right.
Although I'll note that that documentary is about a winner. They didn't make one about the loser.
That's a good point. They only make documentaries about you if you're a winner, right? If you want to be in a documentary, you got to win.
You want to be there.
Exactly.
But anyway, we have a lot of fun, and we're really looking forward to the coming years.
Great. Thank you very much, Howard. Felt really special to record one of our very first episodes of Life on Mars with you, and looking forward to seeing you in Barcelona, having great dinner and great wine together again very soon. Otherwise, in the US.
I can't wait, Alex, and I'll be there. I'll be on the first flight over, baby. So, get ready, and I look forward to it.
Great. Thank you very much.